Hi, welcome to Behind the Storyteller, a Notified podcast. My name is Alan Murphy, and this is the series where we take professionals from the worlds of IR and PR, the corporate storytellers, and we get them in the studio here, or today we get them in the studio, sometimes they're virtually, and we allow them to share their stories with insights, challenges, struggles, and takeaways that we could all learn from. I'm joined, as usual, with my co-host, Caroline Cullinan.
Hi, everyone.
And Pat O'Rourke.
Hey, how's it going?
And we're super, super excited that we have a Chicago-based guest with us, which means we're not talking to a screen today. We are talking in person with Gini Dietrich. Gini, welcome.
Which I'm so excited about. I was like, yay, we get to be in person. This is awesome. Yay.
And since you're here, normally I do introductions saying, your job title, where you work and everything, but you're here, so I don't want to talk for you. So
please talk.
That's just him saying
Make something else.
He forgot to look up the information before.
Yeah.
Quiet. I'm editing that out. But I do know you've joined at Notified webinars before, so some of our audience may be familiar with you. But for those of you who aren't, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are?
Sure. So I'm Gini Dietrich. I have a firm called Spinsucks. It actually started as a book or a blog, and then it became a book. And as part of that process, I created the PESO Model, which I launched in the book Spinsucks, 11 years ago. And it has become sort of the framework that the PR and marketing industries use as a way to integrate work and measure efforts.
Excellent.
Cool.
Okay, we've got a lot to talk about. but before we get into Spinsucks and the blog, the book, and everything like that, we do just want to get to know you a little bit. The way that we think about this podcast is, this is your opportunity to share your story. And a story starts with a character. You're our character today. So let's hear a little bit about you. You are Chicago-based. Have you always been a Chicago native, or are you a bit of a transplant?
No, I'm a transplant. I've been here a long time, almost 25 years. But I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. I grew up Mormon, not Mormon anymore, but I did grow up Mormon. And I went to school in Omaha. I went to Creighton University, and then I moved to Kansas City to work for Fleischman Hillard, and then I moved here.
Excellent.
Cool. Yes, I've been.
And how long ago, I guess I'm just going to jump into some of the stuff that you were talking about because I'm very interested. When did your blog start? Because that sounds like that was kind of the beginning of everything, or was there like a job or something that kind of led up to that point for you?
It's a good question. So I actually, I left my job in 2005.
Okay.
And there were a lot of life changes. My fiance at the time was moving to Chicago from St. Louis. We were getting married. Like there was a lot of stuff. So I was freelancing. And I didn't really have an intent on building a business. I was just going to freelance to get through the life changes and then go back to the big PR firm world. And I was the president of PRSA in 2007. And so I made some really good contacts and really good friends, and a lot of them who worked at big PR firms. And they would say like, oh, we've got this $200,000 client project that it's too small for us. Do you want it? And I'd be like, yeah.
That's the boss.
Yeah. My brain just dropped.
You said that number. I'm like, oh, wait, no, they weren't impressed by that.
No, not at all. Yeah. So for us, it was great. And I just built an agency, which I didn't mean to do at all because I really was going to go back to, a full-time job. And I remember thinking, well, gosh, okay, well, we'll try this. And if the other shoe drops and this doesn't work out, I can go back and work. And now today I'd be like, no freaking way. I'm not going to go work for somebody again. So as part of that, it started out as a very traditional PR firm. It was media relations, crisis, reputation. And we were inundated with social media, with inbound marketing, with blogging, with content, with all this stuff that was coming at us. And we were trying to figure it out. And so we launched a blog in 2009 just to test it, to see if it was something that we could offer to clients. And here we are. As it turns out, it was.
I feel like that's a good time to launch a blog too. Like that was like I'd say like 2005 through maybe the mid 2010s or something like that. That was huge in the blog space.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was fun too because, back then people commented on blogs. And so it was really fun to build a community. And it afforded me, I did marketing in the round first, wrote that, co-authored that, and then I did Spinsucks, and it afforded me speaking engagements worldwide. And, I think in 2014 when Spinsucks, the book came out, I was on a plane 50 weeks out of the year. I don't do that anymore.
Wow.
That was pre-children, but it has afforded me a lot of really fun opportunities.
And so what was the name of the blog itself, Spin Sucks?
Yeah.
Or is that something that kind of came over time?
Yeah. It was funny because we were sitting in our conference room when we had an office back then, and we were talking about this blogging thing, and we're like, does this make sense? Should we try it? How does it work? Can we offer it to clients? And so we said, well, let's launch one and see what happens. And one of our really smart interns said, we were talking about what to name it. And he said, well, you always say Spin Sucks. And I was like, that's kind of a cool name. And so we looked on GoDaddy and the URL was available. So here it was.
I remember those days when you were trying to
right.
Let's type in this, see if the web domain is available.
Right.
And then they give you all the options. And it's like, Spin Sucks with an X at the end instead of CKS.
And you couldn't do, back then it was like you had to have the .com. You couldn't do .net or .ai.
Yeah, nowadays it's like .band, .live, whatever you want.
Total free for all for that last part of a URL now.
Yeah.
But back then,
if you didn't have a .com, you were not legitimate.
Not legit.
Right.
Yeah, you get a .co. I mean, a .org. I mean, obviously that's fine.
Right. And .edu was fine, but outside of that, not good.
Yeah. And when did that evolve into a book that you had published?
So because of that, in 2011, she wasn't my publisher then, but my publisher came to me and said, hey, I'm looking for a co-author for this book called Marketing in the Round. We need a PR expert. Can you co-author this book? It seems like you have a really good stance on the PR industry and Spin Sucks and things like that. And so I worked with Jeff Livingston to write the book. And then he sort of taught me like the publishing process and the speaking engagement process and all of that. And then at the end of 2012, which is when that came out, my publisher said, so what do you want to do now? And I was like, well, I really want to write Spin Sucks. And she was like, great. So we published that in 2014. I always tell the story that it was due like December 22nd. And so that week before Christmas, she kept sending me stuff to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want it to be Christmas now. But it came out, it published.
So you co-authored a book before writing Spin Sucks.
Yep.
So selfishly speaking, like I also, I've done some writing in the past before. What were some of the unexpected challenges, between writing, you were used to writing a blog.
Right.
Obviously much more short form when compared to a longer novel. How was that transition from blog writing to co-authoring a book to then writing your own on your own?
That's a really good question. It wasn't terrible just because I was used to writing every single day, which I think when you write a book, you have to have that commitment and that routine. So I was already accustomed to that. And so that part of it was easy. What I found the most challenging is the curse of knowledge. So I would write something thinking it made sense. And then, they always have external experts read the manuscript, the draft. And so feedback would come back and I'd be like, oh. And so that was the most challenging part, is having to go back in my brain almost to simplify it even more, because you forget that people don't know how things work.
Yeah. When you're writing for an audience that you are a part of,
right? You
can use jargon and terminology and everything like that they're gonna get.
Right.
But then when you throw that book in front of me,
a business leader, right? Yeah.
A lot of that will end up going right over my head, and I'll have no idea what you're talking about. So it's almost like you have to unlearn some of what you've learned over the course of your career to rephrase it differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like teaching your younger self again.
Yes.
To saying, hey, what did I want to know? Or how would I explain this to me before I became the expert in this, before I knew what that meant?
Knowledge is real. It's real.
It's not something that you think about often.
Right.
To just be like, okay.
I think about it all the time, I feel like. Because I coach lacrosse, so I coach kids.
Yep.
And I never realized the basics of it, right? Like you're talking, it's so hard to remember the basics when you're, 28 years in.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And how do you teach it to a little kid?
Yeah. When that stuff is second nature to you by this point, after so much repetition.
Right.
And, it's hard to dial it back. And so that kind of takes us more to about where you're at today then, right?
Sure.
And I guess this is a good segue. So we've learned a little bit about who Gini is, our character for the story. And, we usually like to kind of take this podcast to, what's a struggle that you face or an unexpected challenge that you came across, within your industry. And let's talk us through it. What was the problem? What was standing in your way? Those sorts of things. So I know we talked very briefly before we started recording,
which was 100 years ago.
But yeah, so what do you want to chat about today? What was something that you think maybe the audience could learn from?
I think there's one thing that across the board from a professional services standpoint. So if you're in marketing, if you're in PR, if you're communications, if you're law, if you're accounting, providing a service, we forget that, this goes back to the curse of knowledge and knowing things, right? And being an expert in things. We forget that we have intellectual property. And people want to pay for that. People want your expertise. They want to know what you have. And that might be in a salary and it might be in consulting work, right? So you have to think about, what do I know that I can share with an audience? And so when I wrote Spin Sucks the book, I talked about this. It wasn't even a framework at that point. But this idea that we had internally to help our clients have consistent results all year long, which was sort of bringing in content, blogging, social media, media relations, and search engine marketing back then, right? And so you had I remember one of the first iterations of the PESO model was it had Google Plus in it. It had Vine, things right, don't even exist anymore. Pat and I are the same age.
I was you said Google Plus, and I was oh, wow.
I don't know what that is.
Oh my God, right, yeah.
Ooh, my back started hurting again.
Google's
Thanks,
failed
Caroline.
attempt at a social media platform.
Yes, I used it.
We all used it.
Yeah.
It was kind of sad when they took it away.
Yeah. Wow.
It was I'd say it was a marriage between Twitter and Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, I'm unfamiliar. But
yeah, it was super fun. But that was the first iteration. And when I wrote about it in the book, it was just to sort of inform that there's more to what we do than media relations. There's more to it, right? And when you talk to an executive, I'm convinced that they go to some school at night that's in a secret place, and the teacher is like, okay, if you want to make sales, here's what you do. You call a PR firm and you say, I'll give you $10,000 to get me on the front page of the New York Times. And they'll get you on the front page of the New York Times, and then everything will be solved. I'm convinced there's a school because that's all they want. And you're like, okay, that's not how this works.
It'd be great if it did.
I wish it did.
Yeah.
Unless you do something bad, you're not going to be on the front page of the New York Times. I'm really sorry.
I've heard that before too. And I am not in the public relations agency world, but people have said that to me. And I'm like,
right.
I can't help you with that, unfortunately.
No, you cannot. And when Oprah was here, people would call and say, we really need to get on Oprah. And I'd be like, great. She's not going to talk to you.
She hasn't answered my calls. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I live down the street, but she hasn't answered my calls.
Let me just ask her when we go to lunch next week. It'll be
right.
My close personal friend Oprah.
Me and Oprah and Leonardo DiCaprio. We're just going to hang out next week. Yeah, so I wrote about it in the book just to help people understand that it's more than that, right? And because a business leader was a target audience for the book too. And what I did not expect is that the industry would take this idea, and we did name it, and we did have a graphic in the book, which was my publisher's doing. Thank you to her. But I didn't expect that it would take the industry by storm by any stretch of the imagination. And so it did. And then people started to copy it and pretend that they had created it. And all of a sudden I had to backtrack and get trademark and copyright and all of that. Thankfully, I had it in a book, so that helped significantly. But yeah, that has been one of the biggest challenges, and it's one of the biggest challenges today. And I would say that most people are ignorant, like they see something online and they're like, oh, that's cool, I'll make it my own. And they don't realize that there's a copyright and a law that prevents you from doing that. Like you can't make Coca-Cola and call it Coca-Cola.
Right.
Right. So that has been the biggest challenge. And I use that as an example because we all have intellectual property in our brains of things that we want to share, and be really smart about that before you do it to ensure that your ideas are trademarked and copyrighted. And you can get that done fairly easily. I mean, you have to prove that you've been talking about it, that you have blog posts on it, or you have curriculum on it, or you have something that shows that you've been talking about it or teaching it in some fashion. But do that, because it has been a struggle for sure, because we had to backtrack into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like one of those unexpected challenges of success.
Yes.
Was when the book did so well and it was circulating through the industry so much. It's like, oh, now there's copycats that I have to deal. Like, probably not something you thought you would have to deal with. Yeah.
Never, ever, never. So, and that's what I always tell people. Like, now, protect your ideas.
Yeah.
Protect.
So we're gonna have to do that for this podcast. So there's not another modern storytelling.
That's right.
Podcast.
Yes. You'd be surprised. Like, there might be one in Europe. Where they're like, oh, they're in the U.S. And you can't do that.
We're going to see a knockoff where there's a host with different colored mohawks on there and loud printed shirts for
right, yeah.
Oh man.
But no, to your point, with in a previous life, I hosted karaoke and I branded it a certain way, and there was a lot of talk about like trying to trademark that because people will utilize that same name or that same kind of idea, and you don't always, like when you start something, or in your case like with the book and putting this together, you said it, you didn't expect this to take the PR world by storm, to be a thing. So you don't sit there and go, should I trademark this beforehand? You don't have those, you don't necessarily have that thought when you're putting this together, unless you are intentionally putting together this is what this new course will be, this is what this new thing will be. And then you could get ahead of it and say, hey, okay, here is the steps that we're going to take to protect this, to trademark this. So I could only imagine that when it started taking off and you have these people that are like, oh, this is what I came up with. Yeah. But it was very fortunate that you had it in the book, that you had the graphs, that you had all these things there. But have there been, you don't have to get into specifics if, obviously, but has there been a particular challenge from an organization or a person that was utilizing this that turned into something that was like memorable, that you had to be like, no, this is mine. Here is all of this. What was that like? Because those are the juicy stories.
Yes. In fact, there is a company that created a whole like marketing and sales process around it, and an ebook and landing pages and lead magnets and the whole thing. Wow. And so the way that I normally approach it is I'm fairly reasonable human being. And so usually what I'll do is I'll reach out to either somebody I know inside the organization or directly to the person who's posted it, right? Because you can see it online, and just say, hey, listen, this is great. Can't really do that. Copyrighted. There's several ways that we can work on this. Like if you're going to do a landing page and lead magnets and all of that, you got to pay for that. If you're blogging about it or you have it in a presentation because you're teaching it, I can give you a free license for that. But you have to attribute it to me, right? That's what we ask. With these guys, I was like, okay, like we got to talk about licensing. And they were like, oh, sorry. And so they took everything down because our attorney was like, this is not okay. They took everything down and they republished it like a month later, thinking that we wouldn't see it again.
Just so you'd forget about it?
Yeah.
Like they were suddenly off your radar? Like,
and we were like, no, you can't do this. So our attorney worked at this point, it's escalated, right?
Yeah.
Our attorney had worked with their legal team and they took everything down in the US, but not around the world. So then we had to go back and be like, you guys, you cannot do this. And at this point, I'm even still willing to work with them to say, like, if you license it, I'm happy to work with you on this. You don't have to, I know how much work went into this. I know how much money you spent getting this done. I'm happy to work with you to get this right. And they just kept trying to undercut and move. And I really think they're a big enough company that I think they thought I would go away. And I did not go away.
Good.
And I just got a check for it like 3 weeks ago.
All right.
Yeah, so good to hear.
Because it's good that you weren't immediately just trying to lawyer up back them or anything. Like you're trying to work with them. Like, you're trying to get, you want the information to be out there. That's why you made it in the first place.
Right.
You want to help the respective industries. So you're not trying to just shut it down immediately. Like, hey, I'll work with you guys. But every opportunity, they were trying to just
and they
sneak it by
did.
you.
It was like 4 times. After the 4th time, my attorney was like, "Oh, come on."
It's still web. It's not like you can just
hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, back in the olden times, Caroline.
Before you were born.
Yeah. Dinosaurs roamed the earth. I was a kid.
Big Bang Theory. The whole thing.
Buggies.
Dial-up phone.
Exactly. Cranking up the car before you get it to start. But you could almost kind of get away with stuff like that. And I'm sure that there were plenty of instances where that happened because in this exact case, if you stop doing it in the US and you don't have the presence in the UK or Europe or Asia, and they're still putting these things out, then then they can get away with it. Cool. But in this day and age, like, the internet is worldwide. It doesn't matter where you are. You can see these things.
And there's this little thing called media monitoring.
We're very familiar.
Yes.
As it turns out.
Shameless plug for media monitoring. And you mentioned, kind of talking about the olden days and everything, Grandpa. So we're going to have a supercut of episodes where we're joking about your age eventually.
And me just looking at the camera.
Me talking about how my back hurts as soon as Caroline is like, I don't know what that is.
But when you were talking earlier about your blogs, and then we mentioned it was Google Plus and everything, and now things have evolved a lot over the last few years, especially with AI. But before, a lot of the topics were about like search engine optimization.
Yep.
Now it's more like answer engine optimization. How is that affecting, a lot of what you do and the teachings and the takeaways and everything? Is that something?
So much.
I have to imagine. Yeah.
So much. In fact, this entire year we've spent on visibility engineering and using the PESO model as your operating system. So it's really about, how are large language models learning? And they're learning by consistent messaging across everywhere, right? Everywhere, social, website, content, paid media, everywhere that you have a presence, that message has to be consistent. And they're learning by citations, which makes media relations really important, right? So if your content on your website matches what the media is saying, matches the social, matches your ads, like all of that starts to work together. Where I think most companies are falling down right now is they're not consistent. So you might have the CEO's bio that's one on the website and it's completely different on LinkedIn. And that confuses the AI, so it doesn't do anything. It's like, oh, I don't know what to do with this, so I'm not going to do it. So we talk a lot about how to engineer that visibility. And it really is making sure that your messaging is consistent across all the platforms, that you have your message, which is very, very traditional PR thing. You have your messaging pillars and your key messages that line up underneath those. And are they the same? Are they consistent? Does a consumer see you wherever they are and get the same message, on TikTok that they would on Reddit or wherever, right? And the same thing goes for the AI. Is it getting the same message? So that's a lot of what we've been working on this year, is how to engineer that visibility within for both humans and the robots.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because I know more and more companies are trying to get their messaging out there as widely as possible, thinking, yes, this way answer engines can find this and then make it part of the results and everything. But I think a lot of them don't realize that consistency is so important. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most important things, because otherwise the AI is like, I don't know which is true, and so it just ignores it.
Yeah. If it doesn't know what to do with it, it's not going to do do
Correct.
with it.
Yeah.
Or worse, that it just makes up its own thing.
It could hallucinate.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
It's like, well, we'll fill in the gaps for how we think with all this information. Yeah, that's keeping your story, keeping in control of your story through AI is huge right now.
Yeah, the last thing you want for your brand is for AI engines to make things up about it or anything. Yeah.
Or look at old stuff and use that as the new way of doing things. So it's interesting because I just had somebody say to me, I don't understand why you haven't evolved the PESO model. And I was like, have you been on the internet lately? Because we have, and all you have to do is ask ChatGPT, because I've been so strategic and purposeful about ensuring that the LLMs know. So I literally was like, why don't you open ChatGPT right now and ask it, has the PESO model evolved in 2025? So she did, and she goes, oh. And I was like, thank you.
You're like, microphone drop.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Don't come at me until you do your research.
That would have been a point in time back in the day where she would have slammed the phone.
I remember
do
those
that now.
days when I was, 5 years old.
Right. When she saw her mom do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As this series goes on, you're just going to get older and you're going to get younger.
Right.
Sounds about accurate. Yeah, that works.
Well, Gini, we're coming up on the 30-minute mark, and this is usually when we kind of want to think of some key takeaways, some good sound bites that we think the audience may like to learn from you. So for anyone watching this, whether they've seen you on our webinars before, whether they've read your book before, pick up her book. What are some things that you think that, especially now, with regard to, maybe AI or just the way that industries and the world has evolved, some key takeaways that you think people could learn from this episode today?
A couple of things. I would say number one, you have to be really good at marketing to human beings before you can market to robots. And so if you're not good, or the organization is not good at marketing to humans yet, which I would say probably 75% of are the case, not to the fault of us, because, there are executives who don't always value the work that we do. That's the first step, but you also have to understand that you have a new brand persona now in ChatGPT and Perplexity and Gemini and all of those. So really think about how you're going to market and communicate to both the robots and the humans. I think that's the big thing. And then really understand how you can start to engineer that visibility. And starting with the PESO model, I would start with owned and earned, and then move into shared and paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then because I do feel like more and more industries are really, really just trying to talk to those AI models. But you're right, that talking to those AI models doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's people who are getting those results and everything like that. So you need to know how to market to the people who are
they're the ones who are going to
those.
buy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
ChatGPT doesn't have
Not yet.
a wallet
Not
and
yet.
just throwing down
Right.
the credit card for you.
No, ChatGPT is like, please buy us.
Right.
We'll keep telling you more things on what to buy.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Well, Gini, thank you so much.
This was so fun.
Yeah,
this
this
is
is great. I may ask you to come back just
I
because
would
this
love
is so
to.
much fun. For everyone listening or watching at home or on your commute, however you're taking this in, thank you so much for joining us today. And Gini, we hope to have you back soon.
I would love to come back. This is super fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.